football. I am Kevin Clark. No better way to say this except one of the most impactful days in NFL recent history. I don't remember the biggest day, a bigger day before this. The Patrick Mahomes injury was the biggest NFL injury since 2008 with Tom Brady, and I'm going to get to some of the comparisons with that in just 1 second. This is Football is presented by Manscaped. Upgrade your grooming routine with products built for modern men, now available at Walmart. All right, so we're doing winners and losers. There's a lot more losers than winners today. That's just the way it goes. And usually by December, we know who there are more losers than winners because most teams are out of it. And we did not expect, however, the Kansas City Chiefs to be one of those teams. For the first time since 2014 when they started this little run with Andy Reid. Remember, by the way, we've written Alex Smith out of history, but starting in 2014, he was a problem. By 2017, his last year as a starter, he was the best deep ball passer in football. So respect Alex Smith. But for the first time in over a decade, the Chiefs aren't going to make the playoffs. And it was interesting to me. First of all, before we get into like what comes next, I want to talk about what happened today. The Chiefs looked as sloppy as they have all season. They looked confused. They had no answers. And Patrick Mahomes was under pressure, second most of any game this season. Okay, the Chargers generated pressure on 21 of 40 dropbacks, despite blitzing only twice all game, according to Next Gen Stats. That's ludicrous. And obviously, Mahomes getting chased led to the torn ACL, which is now official. Jeremy Fowler, our colleague, had a quote from an anonymous NFL executive, AFC executive, so in conference there, earlier today, before Mahomes' injury. And he said the Chiefs falling flat this year, there's an underrated aspect of it. That the energy was expended over 7 years led to 81 games. Remember, you're playing playoff games, you're doing an extra month. You're training, you're doing your recovery is different because of that. Everything changes. Remember, most NFL players, the rank and file, are in Cancun on January 3rd. The Chiefs are playing meaningful football. And by the way, physical, like the playoffs are way more physical than the regular season. Like so many things about the playoffs are far more draining than the regular season. They're doing a month of that every single year. And so the AFC executive says they just look tired. I thought about that quote as I was watching them today before even the injury. I was looking at it and saying, yeah, this team looks a little bit tired. Travis Kelce, probably just age, but that looks like it's running its course. And now with Mahomes possibly missing the beginning of next season, we're probably going to see Travis Kelce's last game pretty soon. And we'll probably find out on Christmas Day would be his last game at Arrowhead if he does a lap or something like that. We'll probably see that pretty soon. Andy Reid, best offensive play caller of my lifetime. You don't want to say he's out of ideas, but I'm yet to see this year the genius that I've seen in previous years. So by Andy Reid, if you're comparing Andy Reid 2021 to Andy Reid 2025, Andy Reid's not going to let that comparison right now. And then you get into the fact that the Chiefs had to have 3 teams win today and then them lose in order for them to be eliminated. All those results happened. So everything that could have gone wrong today went wrong. And I was thinking about it. So first of all, everybody's all over the place with when Mahomes can come back. Burrow got hurt in November, I believe, of his rookie year. He came back, was okay in training camp. He was throwing. I was there. We talked about it. It took him a while to get up to speed, acclimated. He was not very good in September, and then all of a sudden he catches fire to make the Super Bowl. He's kind of the patron saint now, I guess you could say, of the ACL injuries for quarterbacks not matter when you make the Super Bowl next year. I think that this impacts everything about not only the Chiefs offseason, but the NFL. So when you start, the only comparison that the Chiefs have is the Patriots. And I think we've written out a history because they won 6 Super Bowls that there was a decade period where they did not win the Super Bowl. And their defense was getting worse in that time period every single year. In 2008, September, by the way, so everybody was saying, oh, Brady came back the next year. That was September versus December. But what happened in those few years after 2008, let's go through it. They don't make the playoffs in 08 when Matt Cass is a quarterback. They lose the wild card the next year. They lose the divisional the next year. They lose the Super Bowl in 2011. Lost conference championship, won the Super Bowl, started their second run. What they were able to do in those 2 years is they understood that the first generation of their dynasty was aging out. We remember who that was. Teddy Bruschi, Mike Vrabel, who got traded, I think, in 08 that year. We know what kind of Patriots 1.0 meant. Patriots 2.0 was Gronk. It was Dante Hightower, who was drafted in 2012. It was Julian Edelman. It was Jamie Collins, who was a really versatile linebacker by the time 2014 rolled around. So you kind of get to know what your dynasty needs. And I don't think the Mahomes thing is a good thing. This is really bad. What I do think is it's going to be the dividing line. It's the ADBC dividing line, is that we're going to talk about Chiefs 2.0 after this, because I think that there's going to be decisions they make, whether that's Kelsey retiring, that's a decision he makes on his own. Is Chris Jones here in 2 years when the Chiefs are ready to win again? Is Andy Reid, who is 67 years old, is he here in 2 years? Does he want to be there? You start to evaluate every single thing if you don't believe. And so the big question is, what do they do with the offense? Because I think the easy answer is you needed a weapon. You need a weapon. They're not getting open against man coverage. That's part of the reason. And then Mahomes' decision making was getting worse because guys weren't open like Tyreek Hill, and you didn't have Travis Kelce, who basically floated the entire offense for stretches of the time by just sitting down in zone. One of the reasons I think that the one-score game stuff has flipped is that nobody was better at 4th and 2. Nobody was better at 3rd and 4th than the Kansas City Chiefs. They're not getting that now. They're just simply not getting that now. And so they need to retool. And I don't know what that looks like now, because not only is there no desperation in the offseason, because you're not saying, hey, if we don't do this, we're screwed. I think that you're not going to go out and sell the farm for a big weapon, right? Like that's the big thing. And then you wonder, do you even just take a step back next year? Do you say, hey, by the way, they're going to get a good pick this year, and I don't think it's going to be spent on a wide receiver. I think that they did that 2 years ago with Xavier Worthy, and they've got other holes to fill. But I think no matter what happens, this is the dividing line between the two parts of the Chiefs. And I think if you're betting against Patrick Mahomes on the second end, on the AD, you're going to be wrong. It's just going to look very, very different. It's going to look very, very different. I think that's why this is so impactful. I agree with the anonymous AFC executive. They look tired. They look worn. But I think this today is a clean dividing line between those two things. Soft rebuild. I still think Brett Veach is really good at drafting. I still think, by the way, you mentioned decisions like Steve Spagnuolo. Is he going to be there in 2027 when they're ready? This is the biggest day in the Chiefs have had in a long time, and I think that the gravity hit them today. Speaking of gravity, Micah Parsons this is not official, but he's believed, according to everybody on the insider game, to have a torn ACL. This is really, really impactful for this year. The Chiefs were out of it. The Chiefs weren't going to make the playoffs. The Chiefs looked worn and tired and broken and all that stuff, and they need to go out, and this is part of its personnel. The Packers did not look like any of those things until today. And they're still going to make the playoffs, and they're still good, and Jordan Love is still the guy I thought he was last week and all that stuff. Micah Parsons was the deodorant for the defense. The corners are not playing very well. The front wasn't getting home as much as they could. Micah Parsons was the guy who, if the Packers, I love asking that question, if so-and-so wins Super Bowl, what happened? If the Packers won the Super Bowl, it was very simple. It was that the Packers play offensive football efficiently, and then Micah Parsons wreaks havoc and changes the game and causes a few turnovers. That's it. That's how you win the NFC. That's how you win the Super Bowl. That's out now. I do not believe they can win the Super Bowl anymore. I don't believe they can win the Super Bowl without Micah Parsons. I think he's probably the most valuable defender on a contender, and that just went away today. And then you add in Christian Watson, who went to the damn hospital with a chest injury. Zach Tom left the game. We'll see there. And then all day, Jordan Love was just getting harassed by the Broncos defense. Zach Allen generated 9 pressures on 36 pass rushes. It was the Packers had to have had Micah Parsons to win the Super Bowl, and they don't have a say. So clear loser. Again, not. I saw some people almost speak like this injury was franchise changing. I wouldn't go that far. We saw what happened with Aiden Hutchinson. He came back. Aiden Hutchinson looks amazing right now. So let's not go too far on that. I think the difference is Micah Parsons, you just throw him out there and he's going to pass rush. With Mahomes, the issue is you got to go out and you have to address personnel to fit what he needs, which you can't do if you don't know when he's coming back. That's why they're two different things. That's why it's two different things. So let's not freak out about that. But loser, Packers, absolutely out of the Super Bowl contention. It sucks. I picked them to make the Super Bowl, and I don't feel good about it now. Phillip Rivers, winner. First of all, the football gods are beautiful. He comes back. It's been 5 years. He does not look good. He was walking around before the game, and he was wearing a little zip up, and he looked like a quarterback's coach. He did not look like a quarterback. He comes out. He's wearing the big chest protector because he can't take a hit. He did not look good. I don't know how to say this. He did not look good. And then he comes back, and he does the same thing he did every Sunday at his peak, which is get very, very, very close to a miracle win, and then you don't get it. That was Chargering. That was Phillip Riversing. That was the drive with 15 seconds to go in the fourth quarter every single time. It ended the exact same way, except now the kicks, they're now we just exchange 60-yard kicks now, which by the way, I'm out. It's my most boomer take. The kicks are too long. I don't believe people were telling me, that it's Rivers is starting because it's a quarterback development problem. I don't think it's that deep. Riley Leonard had a knee injury, and obviously Daniel Jones did the Achilles, and Anthony Richardson literally broke his face a couple weeks ago. I think it's just is there a warm body who's able to throw the ball? Now, Phillip Rivers. The one thing I was disappointed by, Phillip Rivers could not sling it in the way I thought he was going to sling it. But so here are the stats. Okay. 18 to 27, 120 yards, touchdown, interception. Okay. On throws over 10 air yards, 2 of 8, and a pick. The pick, obviously, you remember, was the end of the game. Underneath throws, 16 of 18, 87 yards. That right there, circle that. That's the stat. That's the stat that coaches want when they have a guy who's essentially the 4th string quarterback come in. He's 44 years old. Because what he was able to do is able to set protections. He's able to know where the ball should go, and he's getting it there. That, to me, that's not about the NFL's developmental problem. That's just about an old guy knowing where the ball should go. That's what it is. He knows how to read the defenses. He knows where the holes are, and he just goes, He can only throw it 6 yards effectively, but that's the value of it. So that's why this is going to keep happening. Even if he can't go beyond 10 yards. Now, you're probably going to have to throw a couple just to keep the defense honest. They don't put the safeties 8 yards deep. But that was all they wanted. It was all they wanted. It's an old guy who said, here you go. Well, I've never seen the movie Space Cowboys, about where they go up and they do the NASA stuff. It's old people who know how all the systems work, but I'm imagining that's what it was like. I got the basic premise, and I feel like Phillip Rivers did that today. I got the basic premise. All right, let's quickly do badasses. Tyler Shough. And Tyler Shough's going to go up here on the badass wall. The badass wall is brought to you by Manscaped. Step up your grooming game with precision tools that make you look sharp and feel confident. Available at Target. By the way, I got a ton of new photos. They're right here. I got a ton of new photos on the badass wall. Aiden Hutchinson, number 1. We're putting all these up. There's like 20 of them. Putting all of them up this week. New batch of badasses. Tyler Shough's going to go up there pretty soon. So I don't know if you guys have seen the last couple of weeks, but the Saints have now defeated the Bucs and Panthers in back-to-back weeks. They've won 3 via field yates. They've won 3 of their 5 last 5 games after a 1-8 start. They're showing some real progress, according to Field Yates, with Tyler Shough under center. Now, if you watch the Saints game, the reason they won this game is because hell of a play by Kellen Moore. So it was a tie ball game, inconsistent play from both sides, 17-17. they're driving down the field, and instead, right before they kick the field goal, again, everybody's kicking 60 yarders, 62 yarders, whatever. Right before they do that, instead of doing the little out that would go out of bounds, they had Tyler Shough run a QB draw, nobody in the middle of the field. Now, Tyler Shough took a huge hit. He runs it about 4 yards, takes a huge hit, draws a flag from a rookie with the Panthers. By the way, Dave Canales went off after the game. They were getting killed. The Panthers killed themselves with penalties. Killed themselves. I think they may have had like over 100 yards of penalties. They were just an undisciplined, sloppy team, which is not what you need to do. If you need to play clean football, if you're playing a really bad team like the Saints, you're trying to win the NFC South. But that's neither here nor there. Tyler Shough, total badass, hangs in there, takes the hit, had to come out of the game. But he is showing real toughness. He's showing his ability to move with his legs in the last couple of days. I think last week he had a 34-yard touchdown. There's something, I don't know if he's the guy long term there, but I know that he's going to have a long NFL career without a doubt. Without a doubt. Now you flip that. The Panthers are really disappointing today. This is what happens. They're so inconsistent. This is what happens when you get inconsistent quarterback play. There's no mystery to this. People always go, oh, they're the weirdest team in the league. No, it's because they have a quarterback who can't consistently score touchdowns in a way that you need your franchise quarterback to do it. Today, 14-23, 174 yards and touchdowns against the Saints. Moved the ball down the field actually kind of well, but was still 9 incompletions on 23 passes. Like the accuracy is still a problem. And he's just inconsistent. I know I say this. He was scrambling well, all that stuff. But if you can only score 17 points against a bad Saints team, you're not the guy. And I've thought even coming into the season that Young was a better story than player. And I'm seeing that more and more and more. Real quick, I just want to flick at this because it's going to get lost in the Micah Parsons, Patrick Mahomes stuff. Davante Adams also got hurt today, which does a lot. It's not to the same level as Micah Parsons. Puka Nacua got hurt and then came back in the game. Davante Adams, if he's seriously hurt, so started limping he beat the Lions defenders downfield and then started limping. Looked like a hamstring that maybe he aggravated earlier in the season. That's significant because it's red zone touchdowns are like, for me, I'm just upset. If you get inside the 10-yard line, you have to score touchdowns. Like that's just modern football. That's what the best teams do. And if you don't have Davante Adams who's able to just get open at the 2-yard line over and over and over again, that matters in January. So I want to flag that because that's obviously Don Adams is a huge name, but I think it's going to get lost on Monday on the talk shows, and it probably shouldn't be. Winner of the Bills. The Bills are a winner. A lot of terrible tweets in the first and second quarters about how there was a passing of the torch. And what happened was Josh Allen, I don't know if there's anybody in the league that, I think Josh Allen said last week, is the best football player in the world right now. I don't think there's anybody in the league that you just tell him to get more aggressive and take over the game, and he'll do it quite like Josh Allen right now. I kind of feel like Lamar has had that in stretches, but it hasn't happened this year. Josh Allen's the guy. He goes, here's the next stat. He has 2.4 air yards per attempt in the first half. Okay, that's bad. That's not Josh Allen ball. By the way, James Cook played a role in the second half as well. I don't want to write him out of history. But in the second half, Josh Allen goes from under 2.5 yards per air attempt to 10 air yards per attempt. So he just says, you know what, I'm taking over this game. Then he has 48 yards in the scrambles, 32 yards on 3 design runs. And Drake May, on the flip side, was only really good at the underneath stuff today. He went 11 of 13 on short passes, went 3 of 9, and he's been so good at the deep ball all year. But he doesn't have the extra gear that Josh Allen does, which is to put on your cape. Yeah, he will. Remember, Mays had thrown me so many good deep balls that you almost just attribute it to bad luck or the weather or whatever. But I don't think, the reason I think Josh Allen's the best football player in the world is that if you want to draft him for a play, a down, a series of downs, a drive, a game, whatever, I think you're always taking Josh Allen, no matter what it is. If the devil is coming down and says your soul, if your guy can't convert, you're picking Josh Allen right now. because when it's winning time, he knows it, and that's it. Loser Giants. I don't want to keep doing this Giants thing, guys. I need to see the Joe Schoen fired tweet tomorrow. I don't think we're going to see it. Dan Dugan has this. The Giants have the worst record in the NFL, 11-37, since the start of 2023. The Titans tied them up after this tweet was sent. So congratulations, Giants. You're only co-worst in the league since 2023. Since Joe Schoen became the GM, they are 5-17-1. Congrats on the tie against the NFC East. And now we have the stat that in half of Jackson Dart's games, he's been evaluated by an independent neurologist for a concussion because they cannot get him to protect himself. And this is the whole thing. John Gruden tried to do it at QB camp. The coaching staff, it feels like initially was trying to get him to protect himself. I don't know what the hell is going on right now. They're calling design runs. Everybody out. Everybody out in New York. It's getting frustrating, and I'm only saying it just because I want to make sure it's happening. Bullying works sometimes, and it should work in here. Don't be silent on how bad the damn Giants are. All right, we're gonna be back on Tuesday. If you did not catch up on last week's episode, really good stuff. The 2 episodes. Mitch Morse was unbelievable. One of the best storytellers we've ever had on this show. Christian Benford, speaking of the Bills, was able to join us. So Jordan Reed was able to join us. There's some really, really, really good stuff here. Okay, Joe Thomas. So go back and watch or listen last week. And then this week, a couple of our friends are going to stop by, guys we've had on before, and then hopefully a couple of NFL players as well, just like last week. So this has been football. Thank you to Miles. See you Tuesday.